certain titles stand as pillars of innovation, shaping genres and influencing generations of developers. Alone in the Dark, released in 1992 by French developer Infogrames, is one such game. It did more than entertain, it redefined what a video game could achieve, laying the foundation for the survival horror genre. Its innovative design, compelling narrative, and enduring atmosphere continue to captivate players decades later. This video delves into the design and development of Alone in the Dark, its gameplay mechanics, the challenges faced during its creation, and its profound legacy within the industry. At the time of its release, Alone in the Dark was a groundbreaking title that pushed the boundaries of what games could accomplish visually and mechanically. It blended polygonal 3D character models with pre-rendered, static backgrounds, a design choice that not only worked around the hardware limitations of the early 1990s but also added to the game's eerie and cinematic atmosphere. Players were dropped into the creaky, foreboding Derceto mansion, where every shadow, flickering candle, and ominous corner evoked a sense of unease. This visual approach wasn't just about aesthetics. The fixed camera angles, an iconic feature of the survival horror genre, were integral to the gameplay. By controlling what the player could see, or, more importantly, what they couldn't see, the game heightened tension in ways that dynamic cameras could not. Players were forced to navigate the space carefully, never certain if danger was lurking just out of frame. This interplay of perspective and dread became a hallmark of survival horror, later adopted and refined by games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Frédérick Raynal, the lead designer of Alone in the Dark, was instrumental in crafting this vision. Raynal's background in computer graphics and his fascination with cinema inspired the game's unique style. He once stated that his goal was to make the environment feel like a character in its own right, and he succeeded. Derceto Mansion is more than a setting, it is an oppressive force, its every creak and shadow reminding players of their vulnerability. Set in the 1920s, Alone in the Dark draws heavily from the cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft. The story begins with a simple premise. Players choose to play as Edward Carnby, a private investigator, or Emily Hartwood, the niece of a recently deceased artist, as they investigate the mansion. But beneath this seemingly straightforward setup lies a world of ancient evils, eldritch creatures, and a creeping sense of cosmic dread. The gameplay itself was a departure from the norm. Unlike the fast-paced action games dominating the market at the time, Alone in the Dark emphasized exploration, resource management, and puzzle solving. Combat was deliberately cumbersome, characters moved slowly, weapons felt clunky, and ammunition was scarce. These limitations weren't accidents, they were design decisions aimed at amplifying the player's sense of vulnerability. Every encounter with a shambling zombie or otherworldly monstrosity felt like a fight for survival. Meanwhile, the puzzles were complex and often required a blend of logic, observation, and trial and error to solve. Players were encouraged to explore every nook and cranny of Derceto, collecting diary entries, notes, and artifacts that piece together the mansion's dark history. This fragmented storytelling style not only deepened the narrative but also immersed players in the world. They weren't just playing a game, they were uncovering a mystery. The creation of Alone in the Dark was not without its hurdles. Infogrames was a relatively small studio, and the development team worked under tight deadlines with limited resources. Early 90s hardware posed significant constraints, forcing the team to innovate in order to achieve their vision. One of the most impressive aspects of the game was its use of 3D polygonal character models. These models allowed for fluid animations and expressive movements that were rare for the time. However, rendering fully 3D environments would have been impossible on contemporary hardware, so the team cleverly paired these models with pre-rendered backgrounds. This hybrid approach not only solved technical challenges but also contributed to the game's distinct aesthetic. Sound design also played a crucial role in creating the game's atmosphere. In an era when audio capabilities were often an afterthought, Alone in the Dark featured a haunting score interspersed with eerie silences, creaking floorboards, and distant, unidentifiable noises. These elements work together to immerse players and keep them on edge, even during moments of relative safety. The impact of Alone in the Dark on the gaming industry cannot be overstated. It is widely recognized as the first true survival horror game, predating other genre-defining titles like Resident Evil. Many of the mechanics that are now staples of survival horror, limited resources, fixed camera angles, environmental storytelling, can be traced back to Raynal's pioneering work. The game's influence extends beyond mechanics. Its Lovecraftian themes and emphasis on psychological horror inspired countless developers to explore darker, more cerebral narratives. Titles like Silent Hill pushed these ideas even further, creating experiences that delved into the human psyche. Meanwhile, modern games like Amnesia, The Dark Descent and Outlast owe much to Alone in the Dark's emphasis on vulnerability and atmosphere over combat. Even within its own franchise, Alone in the Dark has seen numerous sequels, reboots, and remakes. While not all of these follow-ups achieved the same critical acclaim as the original, they serve as a testament to the enduring appeal of the series. Fans continue to celebrate the game as a landmark achievement, and its legacy remains alive through remasters and spiritual successors. Alone in the Dark is more than a game, it is a piece of history. It represents a pivotal moment in the evolution of video games, where storytelling, atmosphere, and innovation converge to create something truly unique. By combining cutting-edge technology with timeless themes of fear and isolation, the game not only defined a genre but also set a standard for what video games could achieve as a medium. Today, over 30 years since its release, Alone in the Dark remains a touchstone for fans and developers alike. It reminds us that true horror doesn't come from the monsters we see, it comes from the shadows we imagine, the silence that grows too loud, and the fear of being utterly, completely alone.